Hello and welcome to the Smart Connections podcast and the Talk the Path podcast. My name is Anna Sanderlin. I am a warm-line facilitator for the University of Memphis Smart Center. The University of Memphis School of Social Work Smart Research, Training, and Treatment Center aims to provide evidence-based interventions for school-based mental health programming, increase access for school-based behavioral health programming in underserved areas, offer training on best practices in telebehavioral health, develop opportunities to research the use of technology in practice, and provide direct services to the state's most vulnerable populations. You can call the Smart Center at 901-678-1636. The University of Memphis Smart Center, in conjunction with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, would like to present the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. The goals of the Pathways Project are to provide education and information on the various career opportunities in the field of behavioral health through presentations, increase interest in students in the field of behavioral health, provide opportunities for guidance with information regarding college, university programming that result in degrees for professions in the field of behavioral health, connect students with students in behavioral health programs and professionals in the field for further research. This podcast will feature students and professionals in the field to give a clear picture of the daily duties of these roles and how they help support their communities.
All right. Well, good morning. My name is Taylor. I'm working here at the Smart Center, and this is Miss Dominique. We are partnered with the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to bring an exclusive series of podcast topics for the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. The goal of the Pathways Project are to provide education and information on various career opportunities in the field of behavioral health. Thank you so much for joining us today to speak about the Shangri-La Therapeutic Academy of Writing, also known as STAR. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and give us an opportunity to learn more about your background and your academy today.
Yes. Sure. I appreciate y'all allowing me to be here. We don't often get to talk about our equine assisted services industry, so this is exciting for me. For my background, I have a special ed bachelor's and my master's is therapeutic recreation, and STAR was actually my master's thesis project. Both of these degrees were from the University of Tennessee, go Vols. But my vocation, my passion was always horses and children. And so when I saw an opportunity to put those two together and create a job, it was wonderful for me. It was challenging for everyone else because it was back in the 80s, and nobody was willing to listen to something like that because it was so far out of the norm. So that was a challenge when I was going through school, but I had an epiphany moment at a horse camp. I was a counselor every year because that's, again, my love of children and horses. And I had an epiphany moment with this girl that was just every week that she was signed up for the next week of camp, she just got more and more kind of belligerent and just testy, and it's like, whoa, we're at camp. This is supposed to be fun. What is going on? So in one of the timeout walks I was doing with her, we went out in the field, and there were some horses standing under a tree, and she asked if she could go talk to her favorite horse. And it was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I hung back and just watched this girl, and she wrapped her arms around the horse's neck and started to cry. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did the horse do? Why is she crying? And then I thought, that horse hasn't moved yet. Let me just see what's going on. Because the crying was really not in this child's nature. She was a tough little nut. And so she told the horse how much she wished her parents loved her, to have her come home, that they had gone on a mini vacation without her. How was that even possible? Wasn't she part of the family? Summer was almost over and they had spent no time with her. I mean, it was just like, wow, okay, that horse uncorked that I'd been asking her for weeks what the issue was.
Right.
Getting nowhere. But that horse unleashed that whole torrent that I overheard. I was able to go back to the director of the camp, and thank goodness the woman was a saint. And I convinced her to send this girl home. And this was way before cell phones, and I hate it because the only picture I have is in my brain, but that's good enough. When they were leaving, she had turned around in the backseat of that car and was beaming and waving at me and mouthing, "Thank you."
Oh,
and I captioned it,
memory.
"The happiest kid to ever get sent home from camp." And it was like, that was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college. And that was what started it going, what if I could marry my love of children and horses and make that into a vocation? And so I went back and pitched it to all the professors who, to a person, bless their hearts, told me it was the stupidest thing they'd ever heard of. No one was going to let you put handicapped kids around horses. It was way too dangerous, blah, 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 blah. And I was going, but you didn't see it. You didn't experience it. I know it will work. And that doesn't, people have to see things to believe it. And it was a struggle. So when I got my my degree in special ed, I went to all the heads of special ed in the surrounding counties and pitched this idea that I have of marrying horses with people with special needs to learn as well as to be riding them and all that kind of stuff. And to a person, they just said, this is stupid. No, we're not, way too much risk. We're da la la la. The last one, the guy blips on his intercom and he goes to whoever was on the other side. I don't know who it was, and says, I want you to come listen to this ridiculous idea this little girl has. And it was like,
that makes you clench your teeth.
It's all these things. It's just like, good grief, people, just can you unblock your ears and listen? And so I lost my cool and I slammed shut my book and my fingers go out and I go, look, this is going to work and I'm offering it to you and you're going to miss the boat. And I turned around and stomped off and I thought, well, Lynn, there goes all your employment options for Knox, Roan, Blount, Sevier, Anderson County. Because those guys talk. It was the superintendent of schools that I was going to. And the guy came after me and he said, I'll give you 1 hour to show me what you can do.
Okay.
And then I'm going, well, crap. I don't have a program. I have concept of program.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I was a teacher. I was a special ed teacher, but I also was a horseback riding teacher. So I had the horses, I had, an arena, I had that, but I had not got a chance to marry all that together. So I had my mom come out as my volunteer because that's what moms are good for. And he brought six children out from an all special ed school. And this was back when they were all segregated into schools. And so it was a special ed school in Anderson County. It's called Daniel Arthur Special School. Brought out 6 kids. We groomed, we talked, we learned. I put one rider up, and exactly at an hour, he's going, okay, everybody back in the van. And it was like, shoot. But at least he listened. He came and he saw, there is hope. And, but now, now what? So he gathers them all up in the van and he starts out the driveway. And then at the end of this one turn of the driveway, the brake lights come on. He slams to a halt and he sticks his head out the window and he says, be in my office Monday morning. And then he drives off and I'm going, wait, what, conversation? What are you talking about?
Right. Like what direction are we moving in?
Monday morning, because I'm even going, where's your office? But anyway, so Monday morning I show up and it was like, so what's the deal? And he said, well, I just want to relay to you what happened in the van when we were pulling out. And it was like, okay. And he said, one of the kids that I brought was a nonverbal child. And now in this day and age, is someone on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. But back then we didn't even use those terminologies. And he said, he told me, a nonverbal child, said, horses don't like brown grass. They like green. A full sentence that made sense, that stuck with him from that brief moment that we had together.
That's one of those situations. You've got goosebumps, your hair's tingling. That's wonderful.
And this man, thank goodness, was smart enough to go, wait a minute, there must be something to this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I was hired as the farm lady at Daniel Arthur. My first chore was to clean out a hog barn. It was at Haw Ridge, and it's a whole nother story, but suffice it to say, I had a program there. I started a program there. I did a lot of curriculum development and building there. Everything that I taught my students, I only had 4 at a time because I would take them out to the farm, and you can't take a whole class out there. And but everything that we did was related to the horse, diseases, colors, all this education all wrapped around the equine. And then mainstreaming happened 7 years later. And so the program had actually dissolved in 2 years. It was on a grant that I didn't know about. And so after 2 years, I went into the classroom and taught multiply handicapped 15 to 21-year-olds. So they really weren't children, young teens. And when I hit that wall of mainstreaming, most of my kids opted to quit because if you were 18, you could quit. And that just didn't sit well with me. And it was like, let me go back and see what else has now popped up at the university in this 7-year interim. And lo and behold, there was a health, physical education, and recreation department that had been started. And so I thought, well, let me go check in there. And so I had my trusty notebook, which was a lot fuller because I had developed curriculum through this whole time. And so I went into the professor there and I pitched the whole thing. And he goes, what an entrepreneur. What a forward thinker. Oh my gosh, this is incredible. If you get your master's with me, I'll pay your tuition and give you a stipend.
Oh,
Love
wow.
that.
I know. And I went, well, my mama didn't raise a fool. I am yours. And so that's how I was able to develop the program that we know as STAR, was through that year of getting my master's under Jean Hayes in the Therapeutic Recreation Department. So,
wow. That was a wonderful opportunity that was presented to you. And you did exactly what you were supposed to. You went with it. And now you've created this absolutely beautiful program, this beautiful academy.
Yeah. Well, and people will say, oh gosh, this is amazing. Is this what you envisioned? Is like, yeah, no.
Right.
It was on my kitchen table in a shoebox. And all I wanted to do was serve and to get children out there and to work with horses. But as we evolved and got bigger, I had to take on a different role. I had to then become the executive director, which was a very different role. I can manage a classroom, I can manage all this, but managing a nonprofit is a whole different world. And back then there wasn't a lot of education to be had. So a lot of it was seat of the pants or calling up people that you knew in the industry going, okay, so how do you manage this hurdle? So it was learning by the seat of your pants, but it was good, solid learning and trying to not make mistakes at the same time. So I am I'm considered the founder and the executive director of STAR. But we do have now many programs. We started out with the therapeutic riding, which was what I was doing. And that is partnering children and adults that have disabilities with horses to learn riding skills. And through learning those riding skills, they're learning vocabulary development, right and left-handedness, staying on task, following directions, learning all the different parts of the horse because they groom their horse. They groom and tack their horse too.
That's
because
for them to have,
responsibility.
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
Responsibility. Absolutely.
How many times are people that are considered disabled pampered and everything's done for them and whatever. And it's like, no. If you're going to ride that animal, you care for that animal.
Right.
And they rise to the occasion. They'll sit there and do it and they'll hoof pick with the best of them. And, the parents are back there going, oh, and you're going, you be quiet. Right. You're bringing your baggage to the party. And we don't need that. They need to learn that they have the strength and fortitude to do this. And we've screened the horses and there's volunteers there. And, we make it as safe and risk-free as possible. But it is a risk activity nonetheless. Because you've got animals
I can imagine for these students, for some of them, this is their first time ever being given, metaphorically hold of the reins. So
yeah. Literally the confidence, because we'll do surveys and we ask the parents, what is the most significant thing that you see advancement wise with your student or your loved one, and invariably they'll say their confidence level, and you're sitting there going, I really would love to hear fine and gross motor skills and all these real technical things, but it's that confidence, and if you have confidence, then you can tackle the other things, and it's like, we're doing good. We're doing good. So anyway, therapeutic riding, that's our biggest, and it still is our largest. Then came along a veterans program. And in this industry, there's so many people that don't get enough services. And as our industry as a whole was evolving, the work with the veterans became, to the forefront. And we could do that. I mean, we had the skills. We just had to get larger horses because these were all adults. And we had to get a little bit more education because most of them are coming to us with PTSD. There were some that were physically challenged because of their service, and those usually came with PTSD as well, just because you can't get blown up and not have PTSD. Right. Anyway, so we had to, again, learn more, and our staff is very educated and because that's what it takes. This isn't a pony ride. This isn't, just come out to the barn and have fun. Right. It's structured. There are, lesson plans. There are goals and objectives. There are, progress reports and progress sheets and all that.
More that goes into it than just get on this horse and ride.
Exactly. And you've got to have the right horse. You have to pair the right horse to the right person. And we just did our gait analysis the other day because we have a lot of new horses, and you analyze the actual gait pattern of the horse so that do they give you a whole lot of movement, which would be great for those with Down syndrome that tend to fall asleep anyway. You need something that kind of jolly wakes them up. A little bit more stimulating. For those that are ADHD, you need something that's going to keep them focused. But for those coming out of a wheelchair or those with cerebral palsy, some of those things, you can't have a jarring motion. You need it slow, easy. Right. Let's relax and go with flow. So it really, you have to pair the right horse's movement with the right person and what your outcomes are, what you're looking for as your outcomes. But that's another whole little ditty too. So then we started our veterans program. And the cool thing about the veterans program is that all the volunteers are veterans too.
That's wonderful. That's a whole nother level of just being able to understand each other, but then also being able to help each other and move. Like, I know what you're experiencing. I've experienced this myself. Let's go from here.
You know it, because those guys, when we first got them together, it was kind of like, we're on their same team, right? Because, I'm a Marine and I'm Navy. Well, then you're turd, and then right. It's like, whoa. But that's how they talk. That's how they interact with one another. And it's fun. Community. But we developed a socialization time to where this group would come and stay later and this group would come earlier. And then there was a block of time where all the volunteers and all the veterans from both classes would be together to develop networking and friendships and security in where they were and safety, knowing that they can come and this is a safe environment. Because that's the biggest trigger for those with PTSD is if they don't know what they're stepping into, they won't step into it. Absolutely. So they'll just stay holed up in their house and, let the world pass them by. Yeah. And so that was a challenge, getting them to us and everything. But once they got there, then, it was good. So that's a nice, strong program that we have. And it's wonderful. Half of them don't even ride. They're only doing ground exercises. Some of it's because of the weight limits, and some of it's because they really need that grounding. They need that relationship building. For instance, we had one guy come and said, I drove a tank. Give me that horse. I can handle it. And it was like, I'm not touching this horse until we get rid of some of that, because that's not, you don't overpower and you don't dominate a horse. This is your partner. Right. You learn to speak their language, and you learn to communicate with your body and how best to get along together. And then there'll be a willing partner, not a partner that's doing it because they're afraid. And so that's a real challenge to get across to a lot of our veterans. Then we developed a minis program, which was the original plan was to take the minis to the schools, and we could have an education trailer. They wouldn't even have to go off site. We could bring the field trip to them, and it didn't work. It was too much liability. And what if a kid's allergic to a horse? And just
right. There's so much that goes into it, especially when you are at a school. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to connect. So I understand on that part.
Yeah, but in the meantime, we had already desensitized our minis to going inside, to telephones ringing, a toilet flushing, all these different things. And so we're thinking, well, golly, we've come
so far. What do we do with this now?
But we had a group that came to the barn from an assisted living facility, and they just loved it. And the staff member who was with them said, "Oh man, there's so many that are really involved that can't leave the facility. Is there any way that you could bring them to the facility?" And it's like, yes, we can.
Absolutely.
So that started our minis visitation. And so we go into Alzheimer's and memory care units with the minis, and it just lights them up, and the stories come and everything. It is amazing. And then a branch off from that is our reflections program. And this, I had 2 staff members that were keeping loved ones in their home that had Alzheimer's, and it was rough, very rough. And they had no respite. They had just very little help. And so it was like, you know what, let's see if we can offer something to them.
Right.
So we put together the program, had to get more education, because when we take them to facilities, all the trained staff is there.
Right.
To work with people with Alzheimer's.
Right.
We had never worked with people. So we had this staff come to us, do training for our staff. This is, and when you're going to schedule it, and how you treat them and how you don't, argue. And there's just all these things. So then we started the reflections program, and it was really to give the care providers you go sit in the rocking chair and let us take your loved one for an hour. But they were seeing such beautiful things happen. They kept coming, inching closer. Oh God, I just want to see. Oh, look at his smile. Oh, da, da, da. And it's like, just come on, just be part of the team.
Be a part of the memory.
Yeah. And because that's what it was. It was bringing up memories that they hadn't heard or seen, or just parts of these people that had been, kind of, buried. And so it's a beautiful thing. And the problem is that those with Alzheimer's don't live very long. And so it's, we have them for a little while, and then they're gone.
Right.
But it is, yeah. Right. And then our STRIDES program, which STRIDES is our value statement: safety, trust, respect, integrity, dedication, excellence, sensitivity. Okay, those are what our staff works for. We expect that from all of the people that walk through our door. So what we did with this curriculum was we developed a curriculum for each of those words. And then we have adjudicated youth that come to us in our Changing Strides program. They're kind of walking down the wrong path, and we're trying to get them to rights by partnering with the horse. And then we have a Stable Friends program, which originated because of COVID. There were so many young teens that were just falling off the rails. Right. And the counselors were being overrun. They could not take them all. We had a couple counselor friends that contacted us and just said, "Is there something you can do?" And it's like, well, we have this curriculum. We just need to change the narrative for the students that are in front of us. So we thought it was going to be a one-off, and we're like on our 8th class now. They just keep coming. And
that's awesome.
I know.
That is wonderful.
We're obviously doing it right. And it's not half cocked. And it's not like, oh, just come to the barn and have fun. It's like there's curriculum.
Well, and the longer that it goes, the more that it's going to change. I mean, you're going to change for the students that come see you. And as the years go on, you're going to find better and better things and better ways to manage the program. So it's awesome to see that you guys have been able to implement all of those things in keeping it going.
Yeah. And implement or have alternate things to do for safety. If you're working with, and typically we want to work with teens, but we've had middle schoolers. So if you're working with the younger ones, you've got to adjust a little bit. So the activities that we do with each, we need to have a whole file drawer of things to use for each one, so that we can make it fit who we're working with. So that's actually been really, really cool. And then you all really like this one. We just started one called Aligning Strides, and it's working with Align 9, the 9th Judicial District, and the Mental Health Council of Loudoun County. They had started a program for peer mentors in drug and alcohol rehab field. And they didn't have anything that was teaching the soft skills. They had, this is the study, you need to learn this, but then there was nothing. And I happened to be at a chamber function with the lady, and we got to talking, and it was like, well, we teach soft skills. We teach safety, trust, respect, integrity, dedication, excellence, and sensitivity.
Oh, that's perfect.
So we started a program called Aligning Strides, and it's amazing because you're working with adults that they're employed, they're typically developed individuals, they had an issue, and they will always have an issue, but they've worked through it. But let me tell you one story with it, just so you get a glimpse of how Strides works. We set up the very first thing. Remember, safety is our word. And we turn horses loose in the arena. The participants are outside the arena. And so they watch two horses do their horse thing because they're loose in the arena. So they're just free to be themselves. And then you put another horse in and the dynamics change, just like with people. Now there's three. Well, okay, are you good? And one's running around like an idiot. Two are doing with squab, one doing whatever. Then you put a fourth one in, and again, the dynamics change. And there was 4 in that class. So we had 5 horses in there. You always do one more horse than they're a student. And then they get to choose the horse that most resonates with them. And the one guy said, well, those two have been at it since they got in here. It reminds me of me and my wife. So I want to pick that horse. And it's like, okay. And then one guy said, oh, this horse has the most beautiful red hair. My daughter's a redhead. So I'm going to choose that horse. And it was like, okay.
Right.
and the woman, there was one woman with these. So she waited till the men all picked, and then she had 2 horses to choose from. One was a beautiful Arab and one was a beautiful warm blood. Well, the warm bloods are large horses. Arabs are more dainty, smaller. And she chose the warm blood, and she was a real timid person. So I'm sitting there going, okay, you just chose to hunk a horse that you're going to deal with, because this is the horse that they pick for the duration. Right. And so then the next step to that is to meet their horse. And so I had it in the cross ties, and she went up to it and just said, oh my gosh, he's so big. And I said, yes, he is, but he's like a kindergartner. He doesn't, he's in this world and he's kind of in his world, and you have to learn his signals and learn his world. And right as I said that, he took a deep breath and kind of weight shifted over to her. And she was, and it was like, now look, this was nothing to you, at you, for you. This had nothing to do with you. This was him just shifting his weight. We're always moving. We're always shifting our weight, sitting down, standing up, whatever. Horses do the same thing. So, her eyes are real big. But anyway, so she took a lot to get her fortitude going of, I can do this, One of the activities weeks on is called Temptation Alley. Mm-hmm. And you put a obstacle course that you're going to lead the horse through. And then you put like apples in one bin and grain in another and hay in another. The temptations, these are drug and alcohol counselors. So the temptation, can represent anything, any kind of addiction. Yeah. And your goal as the counselor was to get your client through the obstacle course. The guys go bloop, 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 bloop. The woman, now granted, this horse was a dim bulb. Beautiful, but not the brightest thing. But anyway, he goes to the first bucket and goes, oh my God, apples, blah, 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 blah. And she's just pulling. And he's eating. And they go, oh, look, grain. And he goes over and eats the grain. Absolute fail. And so she's in tears, just going, well, I just am not going to be cut out for this, la, la, la. She just felt so crushed and like a failure. And you just let it play out. And then one of the men said, can I help her? Yes, you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Set it all back up. Go. He's on one side, she's on the other. They go right through it, no problem. And then in the debrief, and this is where the magic happens, is like, okay, what was that all about? And it was like, well, maybe once we're out and we're counselors, we're not going to have the answers for every single person. You might have to draw on somebody else's expertise or education or just a different personality type. You might not be the panacea for everybody. And it's like, yes, we all have to realize we have limitations. And that horse showed her and created that whole conversation of, you're not going to be able to save everybody. You might not be the right person for everybody. And you might not have all the education that you really need. You might have to reach out, So anyway, so that's kind of how this starts.
That's a great skill too, especially to move forward just in your personal life, knowing you're constantly going to be learning new things, and you're going to learn new things from people that you never expected. Mm-hmm. And it becomes one of those beautiful things where, oh my gosh, I'm in the world, I'm learning things, and I'm making these connections with other people and with animals. So it's absolutely gorgeous that your clients are able to communicate with each other and help each other through this program. And I'm sure that also fosters a lot of community within themselves as well.
It does. And that's what we want. Is we might facilitate the conversation, but we want them to manage the conversation.
Right.
It's their conversation. We just kind of throw out the tidbits.
Right. Yeah. Like, here's a question, here's a thinking topic, but you let them, they're the ones who take control of it. They're the ones who put their own insight, and, they're the ones, they're doing their own healing, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So those are our main programs, the therapeutic writing, the heroes, the minis and strides. But then we also have an occupational therapist who contracts with us. So when you have a professional, like an occupational therapist, a speech pathologist, or a physical therapist that is using the movement of the horse as part of their modality, that's called hippotherapy. Mm-hmm. And they're third-party reimbursable. These are people that have all those initials after their names. They've gotten their certifications in that. And then they had to learn how to utilize the movement of the horse in their world for physical therapy or occupational therapy, which we have an OT who contracts with us. So she contracts for horse time, volunteer time, and arena time, but that she has her own clients that she sees, and she sees littles. In therapeutic riding, we don't take them younger than 4. She can take them as young as 18 months because she's a therapist.
Right.
And they're not learning to ride. They're using that movement that the horse gives in a very therapeutic way. And a lot of it is core strength, developing core strength.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's another whole industry with OTs, PTs, and speech paths that
absolutely
morph into allowing the horse to be part of their bag of tools. In essence. Mm-hmm. So that's really, really kind of cool too. So where are we? Let's see.
So I think right now, I know you've told us quite a lot about the programs that you guys offer, and who can come to these programs, but I want to learn a little bit more on the volunteer side. So for anybody, who are in our field who might want to come out and see you guys and maybe, work with you, what do you guys, are y'all currently accepting any volunteers? If so, what are the different opportunities that you guys offer?
Our program runs almost exclusively with volunteers. We have certified staff, but then everything else is everybody else's volunteers. And in therapeutic riding, it's manpower intensive. You have a horse leader and you have 1 or 2 sidewalkers. So potentially there could be 3 volunteers for each student. Now, as they gain in skill, you would be knocking off your volunteers. Right. And we do have independent level riders as well, but it's that you work up to that. That's not where you start. So there's basic lesson volunteers, that's what they're called. And there's sidewalkers, who are the ones that focus on the student and helping the student. Remember, they groom. So you're helping the student groom and tack the horse and do all that. And then when they're in the arena, you're walking next to them. And that's the safety, the security. You don't ever tie someone onto a saddle. There's no attachment. There's no belts. There's no anything. Right. They need to fall off. If the horse starts acting like a hyena, they need to fall off because that's the safest thing to happen.
Right.
And then there's a horse leader. And then the horse leaders have to have specialized training because equines are creatures of habit. And when different people come in and attempt to do things a different way every time, pretty soon the horse just goes, they just get so frustrated. And then that's when bad behavior starts. They're biting at people. They're not wanting to come out of their stall because they're confused. You have just rocked their world. Most horses have a person, and they get real comfortable with that person. And then when another person comes along, and we all have different energy that we're giving off and different just mannerisms that the horse has to already absorb. But the treatment of the horse and how you're leading and everything needs to be consistent. So we train our horse leaders in that consistency so that the horses can just relax. Everyone's going to do this the same. You don't have to worry about it. Because the equine piece is obviously a big part of our program.
Right.
We don't have the equine partners. We don't have a program. So the regular volunteers are 13 and up.
Okay.
The junior volunteers are 10 to 12-year-olds. And junior volunteers are like our barn gophers. They get tacked out, they put it away, they sweep, they clean stalls, they do. So they're not directly involved in the lesson per se, but they're part of us, and they're learning and they're doing all this build up stuff to when they turn 13, they're old hats, and they can just go through that other training, and they become very, very strong volunteers. There's a lot of places that don't even start them till 16. And, 16 is like almost a junior in high school. You don't have them long. If you start earlier, you'll have them for a lot longer time. And the conversation is, well, they're kids. You don't really want, going, I'm here to tell you, they will rise to the occasion if you give them the responsibility.
Right. Yeah.
You've got to trust these young people and let them develop their own sense of self. And we're there. There's always certified staff around. There's always volunteers around. So it's not like they're just given free reign and whatever. So it's still very structured. But we love our junior volunteers. We have barn helpers. We have people that come in and just help with the barn. At night, the horses are all turned out to pasture, and then the stalls are cleaned very well. And so they can air out overnight. And then in the morning, new shavings are put in there and the horses are brought into a nice clean stall. So that's another piece of our volunteer pool for people that can't commit to an ongoing lesson schedule. And sometimes they go, I just want to work with the horses. And it's like, well, okay, you're not working with them. You're working with their manure more than you're working with them, but that's okay. So the barn helpers is a wonderful helpmate to all of us. We have minis volunteers, the people who are trained specifically to take them into the memory care units. Our minis have to wear shoes because they're often walking on linoleum or tile floors, and they can't. We don't want them to slip, so you've got to learn how to put their shoes on, their diapers on, and they have more clothes than I do, I swear. So they have. It was like pajama day at a place, and so they're the donkey and the horse have pajamas on. So I mean, it's just that's fun. Then let's see, there are veteran volunteers. So that's a little bit of a different training because it's veteran to veteran. And so you do things just a little different. We have equine specialists, and these are the ones that work with our STRIDES program. The STRIDES program is the closest that we have to the mental health realm. Because we are not mental health providers, we cannot cross that line, but it's more behavioral. It's, okay, what did you do? How can you do something different? Or look at your horse. He's looking a little upset. What can we do to make your horse calmer or more relaxed? And typically it's breathe. It's like, just step back and take a breath. And then your horse goes, oh, thank God. So, it's those are the types of things that we're working with them, and just not being a bully. Some of these come in and they want to just shove around, and you shove a 1,200-pound animal. And when he shoves back, it's like, oh,
yeah, right.
Was that a really good plan? Or what?
Right. Yeah, let's take a moment.
Those are the types of things. But the ES, the equine specialist, watches out for the horse. The instructor watches out for the person. And if the person is starting to get agitated or whatever, we can stop action. But if the horse is starting to get agitated, they can stop action too, because the horse is valuable as well. And you have to watch out for their mental health as well as the person's mental health. So the ESs are very important in our world as well. And then there's facility. I mean, these places with horses are on farms, and farms, that means grass is growing, weeds are growing, you've got maintenance, the whole 9 yards, which is great for those that are more ag oriented. There are definitely need for people to help with farm maintenance and mowing, getting on the tractors and mowing, and we even put up our own hay. So that's a whole process too. And just maintenance of your facility. Light bulbs go out, but plugs go out. Blow dryer that just went out. See if you can fix it. That kind of thing. So there's that. Those are all different volunteer entities that we have, and most all of the other programs would have that too. They might not have the ES if they're not doing the any of the mental health or behavioral health type stuff. And then there's a lot of groups that come out and do work days, which is lovely. We have church groups and scout groups and business groups, and it's wonderful because they come out for 2 or 3 hours, they get a ton of stuff done.
Right.
And,
well, that's a good way, you're meeting your community, you're growing, like more people. Oh, well, I got to do this one thing at church this one time. This might be good for you. I mean, word of mouth is so important in the field.
And we always show the video so they understand who they're helping when they're here. This is who we are. So when you're helping, sweeping the hall, it sounds pretty mundane, but you're keeping that cleaner because our clientele can't have all that dust and dirt. That's not help, so you just kind of keep bringing it all around to how you are making a difference in this. Can I sidebar for just a little bit and talk about some of the jobs?
Yes, that was actually going to be our next question.
Okay, the specific jobs and I can talk more about my program, but my program is pretty indicative of most of the ones that are across the country. Some might be smaller and some larger, but so instructors, the people that actually do the instructing are certified, and they're certified through PATH International. And PATH is the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship International. And they are the ones that have the testing. Like, we're an accredited program. Our whole program is accredited, but then the staff are certified. And in the instructor realm, there's 3 certification levels. There's registered, advanced, and master. So there's definitely progression that you can go through as you attain skill and whatnot. But it is education. It's tough. It's not easy. It usually takes about a year to get your certification. You have to sit for an ICE test, the regular testing site that's off-site and proctored. So it's not simple. You have to know disabilities, horses, and putting that all together. And that can be people like me in special ed, therapeutic recreation, psychology, social services, exercise science, child and family studies. It really doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that grew up with horses and just have this, like me, horses were part of your DNA. And this is a way that you can actually earn a living and be doing something by being a certified therapeutic riding instructor. Are you going to get rich doing it? No, because this is a nonprofit, and in the nonprofit world, yes, you get a salary, and by golly, ask for a salary. You've earned it, and all of us deserve a living wage. But it's harder on a nonprofit because you have to. Depends on what the nature of society's doing and your fundraising and that type of thing. But anyway, so that's through instructors. That's our base level, the people that make the whole program run.
Right.
Typically there's an office manager. So there's someone that's handling the billing, that's handling, incoming monies and outgoing monies. They usually are dealing with the parents because the parents pay a fee. And so you're, collecting that or answering questions and that. So there's insurance. That person handles all of those types of things. Development director. This is very important in the nonprofit world. The development director is the one that is responsible for development, i.e. raising money. So they're grant writers. They're typically they're putting on events, or they're getting sponsors. They're getting one-on-one donors. So they're the ones that kind of are really making sure that the program can continue doing its job. The parents or the families might be paying a fee, but it's always just a small portion of the actual cost. The rest of the cost in the nonprofit world is made up by what we have done, whether it be events or private donations, whatnot. Volunteer managers. Remember, I said most of our program runs on volunteers.
Right,
well, we have pushing 400 volunteers. So that takes a person that is very organized and very much a people person to, ours happens to have a degree in hospitality, but you don't have to. This is you just have to have the passion and the organization.
Drive, the want.
Exactly. To, get everybody lined up where they need to be, help, you're training them. There's, all that, but volunteer managers you will find in every single program because we all operate with volunteers. And equine managers. Remember, our equines are our equal partners. We have 2. And that could be degrees in equine science, just a passion for horses and self-taught, whatever. Ours don't have, one has a history degree and the other one I think is in mathematics, but their passion was horses and they know horses. And that's what I needed, was people that know horses. Which I don't care if you know the mathematics part, horses. But I'm here to tell you, she's great at doing charts and getting everything organized in the horse world. So there's advantages to everything. But if you just want to do horse things, and then there's the ED, the head, and this is usually nowadays nonprofit management. There's a lot of education in that realm, or business degrees. I encourage anybody that's wanting to start a program to take business courses, because that's what I didn't have, and that's where I lack. And I had to go get that, because you're running a business. It's a nonprofit, but it is a business.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You can mess it up just as quickly as you can make it prosper. And so you've got to know that. Communication. We now have someone that does our website, does our social media. She helps create all the brochures. She takes pictures. It's just like, to have someone, and that's her gig. She's really good at that. And she has an ag communication degree, but it wouldn't have to be. It could be marketing, advertising, any kind of that puts you into that realm of knowing that type of thing. Almost all of them have program directors. These are the people that oversee everything: the horses, the students, the scheduling, the instructors. They put it all together. They're the ones that are, make that happen. I don't get involved in that. That's our program director handles all of that. Then we have facility. Again, we're 63 acres, putting up our own hay, mowing, weed eating, knocking down wasp nests. It's everything.
The glorious parts of working on a farm.
Yeah. But, people that like to be on tractors, it's like, oh man, sign me up. And it's, when the guy, and those are men, and when they want to kind of get away from the women folk, they go get on the tractors, and it's like, I see you out there on the tractors. And then there's usually, like with us, we have an assistant that helps everybody, and she answers the phones and, greets visitors and does tours of the facility and stuff like that. So there's just an ancillary person, but she's working towards her instructor certification. So, there's always, we have a mentor program for people that want to become instructors. So that's another kick out there of there's ways to get that education and get help with that education through mentor programs. And then, of course, there's farrier science. That's the trimming the horse's hooves, putting shoes on. That's a huge industry because if you have a horse, you have to get their feet trimmed. So farrier science is another big one. We, of course, veterinarian, the vet.
Yeah, right.
The UT Vet School is the one who serves our animals, and they like to come out work with our animals because most of our animals are really kind of laid back, and they feel like their students aren't going to get injured by treating our horses versus a really high strung animal. But they really like volunteer work, specifically with horses, on their resumes when they apply to vet school. Right. That is a huge benefit to have that the volunteer hours on your resume. But we have a massage therapist. We do healing touch for animals. In essence, the animals are so critical to what we do. We have to make sure that they're the healthiest and happiest that they can be, so they do their job willingly. And so that means you're going to be doing these other ancillary things, supplements, joint injections that anything with people necessarily. But so it just, chiropractics, we do chiropractics on the horses, but you have to be a veterinarian to do equine chiropractics. But that is an offshoot. That's something that's really cool. And boy, it can make a difference in horses. So anyway, there's many paths for employment in this industry, in the equine assisted services industry. It's unlimited, really. It depends on what the particular program has. Like there's other certifications like vaulting. Do y'all know what vaulting is? The one horse where a person's standing in the middle and the horse goes around and then the students are doing like gymnastic moves on top. It's great. And they don't even really have to be doing the gymnastics. Do we have time for me to tell you a story? There was a student of ours that was very, very bright. He was on the autism spectrum, and he was on the horse. And I was touring a group of about 7 people through, and they were getting ready to play a game. And so she said, hey, why don't y'all come play with us? I said, okay, fine. So we stood on the perimeter of this circle. And she said, I want you to strike a pose. And then when he passes you by, change something subtle about your pose. I was like, okay. So, I just stuck my hands behind my back, and, he goes around, and then when he passed me, I pushed my sweater sleeves up and still stuck my hands behind my back. That next revolution, he goes, you flipped your sunglasses up on your head. You changed your weight from your left foot to your right. You split up your sweater sleeves. He pegged every single one of us in one revolution. Wow. On that lunge line. And we think he's handicapped.
That's insane.
He's brilliant. He's right. None of us could have done that. I mean, I could have gotten 2, maybe, or 3.
The attention to detail.
Yeah, there was 10 of us, and he got every one of them. And so you're sitting there going, so vaulting it's not just the gymnastics on horseback. There's a lot of other type of activities that you infuse with it. So it's really cool. And then there's driving. There's driving for the disabled, which if they can't ride for some reason, or they don't want to, or they're over weight limits, there's all different. But you have to have specialized carts, and you have to have really well-trained horses, and it takes a lot of volunteers to make it safe, because driving itself can be a little bit risky. And we don't do driving, but in the industry there is driving for the disabled, and so that's another.
Absolutely,
we have a lot of beautiful opportunities.
Tons. And volunteering is the start of it, because what you want to do is you want to come out and go, wow, look at that. Or I'm real comfortable with this. We have some people that go, oh, I'm not going to be real comfortable working with a student. And it's like, just come. They're just like you and me, and you will fall in love day one, and
being scared is okay, but let's get that foot in the door. Come on, join us.
Yeah. And then they just, oh my gosh, I'm getting more out of this than my student is. And I thought it's equal, but we're so glad that you're feeling that good, positive stuff too.
Yeah. And I'm just listening to you speak on the recording. I'm like excited, goosebumps. I can feel your passion. It is so I can only imagine what it's like for those who may have some hesitation, don't know really where they fit in, but going there, hearing your passion behind it, seeing all of this, I'm sure that is beautiful and beneficial as well. I love hearing your passion behind everything, and the stories. The stories are really beautiful as well, and the testimonies and everything. We were viewing your website, and it's a beautiful thing to see everyone sharing their experiences and the little, maybe some small details that you don't know have a huge impact that really, really goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And things that you don't realize are happening until the parent will pop up and go, my son suddenly can use scissors. They've been trying to teach him to use scissors for 2 years, and he's been coming here. Why can he do scissors? And it's like, let me show you. And to put them on the reins, you have to open up a little scissor snap. And so they do it 4 times, 2 on, 2 off. And that's it. And it's like, that's it. But we can't, we don't claim we're doing occupational therapy. That's an occupational therapy task and skill and benefit, but that's not,
this is part of real world. And that's the beauty of it. That's the magic of it, is that so much is happening below the surface where you're not really visualizing it until you get to these later months when, oh my God, they're doing this. And now they've started to do this. And it starts with that confidence. It starts with getting there, getting your foot in that door. And really the possibilities are endless by the end of it. And it's wonderful that you personally have so many stories of people that you have seen. So just, again, like Dominique said, getting to hear you and hear your passion, but also hear those stories of all these people who have overcome not just things that they're dealing with themselves, but the stigma of being a person with a disability, or the stigma of having a learning disability or ADHD or autism, it's wonderful. It's gorgeous. And it's a great program that you guys are running over there.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And remember, that's why I said the name is Shangri-La, because the goal was that when you walk through our doors, you wouldn't have a disability. You would be the same as any of the rest of us. And that's really our goal. And when you have someone in a wheelchair and you suddenly put them up on a horse and they have 4 good legs.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Endless. And in a world where there aren't very many opportunities for people with disabilities, it's wonderful to see something that is not quite the norm. You wouldn't expect anybody in a wheelchair to go and ride a horse. Yeah. But that's absolutely a possibility with you guys, that you say that's not a problem. Not? Come on. Yeah. Wheel yourself on over here. Let's get you in.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are limitations. We do have contraindications in that for putting people up on a horse. Right. Uncontrolled seizure activity. Right. This tethered cord, not being able to hold yourself up at all. Right. There are certain things that we cannot do, but we do alternate programming. Right. We have, so we really don't want there to be limitations. We want to find the opportunities rather than the limitations.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that was really good. We covered everything that we wanted to discuss. Real quick, for our last thing before we go ahead and close, I know there is another question that we'd like to ask.
Do you guys, I know we've only got about 5 minutes before the recording ends, so we'll try and wrap this up quickly, but do you guys have any current events that are coming up for anybody who's listening out there, if they might want to come and join you guys?
We don't. We're finished for the year for our events, but I would encourage people to go to our website, which is www.rideatstar.org, and look, and it'll have all the different trainings, the barn helper trainings, the junior volunteer trainings, minis training, all that. It will be on there. And then also I would encourage people that might have an interest in any kind of the certifications to go on PATH's website, which is pathinternational.org. And they're out of Colorado, but they are, as their name implies, they are worldwide. And it's a wonderful organization that gives credence to all of us. It's kind of like the Good Housekeeping Seal, and they provide a lot of the trainings and opportunities and stuff that people need to make these programs succeed.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is beautiful. All right. Well, I have really enjoyed time today with you and hearing more about your Shangri-La. Am I saying that correctly?
Shangri-La.
Okay, perfect. Shangri-La Therapeutic Academy of Writing. It is so beautiful to see everything that you guys have to offer, the different volunteer and job opportunities as well. So thank you so much for being willing to hop on the call with us and share more about your organization. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Totally.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Lynn. We hope you guys have a good week. And, to everybody listening, if this is something that sounds down your alley, please reach out to them. I know she had stated their website, but that is the Shangri-La Academy of Writing, Therapeutic Academy of Writing.
And depending on where they're at, if they get on PATH's website, it will tell you the programs all across the country.
Oh, perfect. That's even better.
Okay.
Yeah, because like if you're in Memphis, there's a really good program in Collierville. So you don't have to come all the way to us. You go with what's in your region.
Yeah. Absolutely. All righty. Well, I think that is all that we have for today. But again, thank you so much for coming and talking to us this morning.
Thank you, ladies.
We thoroughly enjoyed it.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to our podcast, brought to you by the Smart Connections podcast from the Smart Center at the University of Memphis, as well as the Pathways to Behavioral Health Careers Project. If you or anyone you know needs any information from the Smart Center, please contact us at 901-678-1636 or email us at smartcenter@memphis.edu. You can also learn more about us at our website, memphis.edu/smartcenter.